This is my fall bouquet, and there's a couple ways you can do it. I typically show this with kind of a gray outline along this pumpkin, but we're going to use blue in this example. So first we're going to do the leaves here. I've mixed up this green, so you can mix up whatever green you want out of your kit. This one in Tropicals is my kind of go-to, which is the palm and tiki, and I think I added a little bit of the patea, the red to it, just to kind of deepen that. I'm using the very tip of my brush here just to get into these leaves, and I'm not going to be as detailed as some of my other videos with leaves, so if you're looking to figure out how to do that, look up like the ivy plant or anyone that has a lot of leaves to it, that maybe you can get an idea of how you might want to do it a little more detailed. And I will come in here in a second, and I want to use this green kind of around my area here, so that in case I run out, I don't have just one green tone on one side and one green tone on the other. And you can also put coconut behind some of these, and then come back in with your green over top. Like that. So I'll do a few of those. You can look at your reference to see what is a leaf and what is a flower petal, because sometimes it's hard to tell, and if you paint over it, no one will know, so it won't really matter. Okay. Okay, so I typically don't paint all the stems. You can see that was a pretty fat line. I'm not really pleased with that, but it'll be okay overall in the design. But you really want to practice your fine lines first. This just didn't have enough pigment to make that nice look to it, where it's nice and thin and wispy. So you definitely want to practice. We can use this little piece of paper I put in each of the taken paints. It's helpful, so you can test out your colors or technique before you put it to your paper. They're kind of covering up my mistake a little bit. Okay. So now we've got our leaves in here. We can start with some of the little flowers. I have this kind of reef color, and I may want to tone that down just a tad. Everything's pretty muted in here. So I'm going to just go around these little flowers, leaving a little bit of the white of the paper by choice there. And all of these little guys are purple in my painting. And you can do whatever you want for your fall colors. Okay, now for the other flowers, I did them all basically the same color. So I've got this darker orange. See, I need a little more brown in that. Okay, so got kind of a rust color here that I like. I'm going to go around some of the, missed a leaf there, by the way. And I'm going to go around these petals. And now, well, I'll wait actually, so we'll go ahead and do a couple like so. Wait till those dry and get a little settled in, and then we can go back over and blend it. It's really up to creative license on which lines you pick to trace around. But you may want to put the darker right around the center. We'll put black in there in a second. So, all right. Now I'll show you if I take a clear brush and come in here and just kind of pull that pigment in, then it doesn't really look like an outline. It just gives it contrast. And that way you've got some light and dark in there. We can always go back in and add more pigment, but it gives us two tones. Just painted that, so we'll wait a second. And you can always go back and kind of pop in a little bit of pigment while it's still a little damp to get that texture in there, and you're still leaving the white of the paper. So of course I'm running out of my paint, so I'm using some hibiscus and some tiki. Oh, that's a lot. So I've got this mess here. I can just move it over here and add more of the orange to it so I don't have to use so much paint. Alright, so I'm going to wait for those few to dry, and I will come in here and grab this leaf that I missed, and I'm also going to now take a little bit, I want to be careful since it's already dry, and just kind of pop in a little bit of accent in these leaves. I'm not trying to get them super realistic. I'm going to use the end of my brush and do a fine line here for that stem. Okay, this one doesn't really have a lot of paint in it. I'll clear my brush so I don't have any green on there, and I'm gonna have a little bit. Go in here, close in some of those white spots. And now I've got this black that I need to put at the center. If you have a tropical set, you can mix ocean and hibiscus and kind of come up with a gray black. Or if you have the extra one that I sell at the store, you can use that. Or I do tell people you can go to Michael's and get like a tube of just a black and just squeeze it in here. It'll harden and dry, and then it'll be ready to be activated, just like these are, with a little bit of water, and you'll have it in your set always. You can always do that with a couple colors that you really like using a lot but don't have in your favorite set. Sometimes I sell some in my store of the black tubes, but you can get them anywhere or online separately. There's a Payne's Gray is really nice because it's like a blue-gray, and then this one is a pretty straight black, and in my other set there's a shadow, it's called, and I like that black because it's not quite as dark and intense. Okay, so how we're going to paint this pumpkin, so our last step, we're going to clear our brush, and I'm going to do this blue here, and I'm going to come along here and deposit some of these minerals, kind of like we did with the flowers. I'll probably leave that there, clear my brush, and start. If you've got enough pigment, if you don't have enough, it won't really quite work that well, and that's okay. You'll have that line, and then you can go in with a very watered down version. Go carefully around some of those leaves that we did, just kind of scrubbing some of that pigment off the line, and I'm leaving a little bit of the white of the paper in here, especially where there would probably be a shadow, not a shadow, a highlight. We can always close this in a bit, but so I'm going to take that pigment again. I had mixed some hurricane and some palm. Like I said, you want to make enough so that you have a matching color. It's kind of close. We'll see. I don't have enough pigment there to really do my technique, so I'll do like this. And come along like that. And now I'm going to go and kind of pull again. And keep in mind, I might want to leave a little bit of a white of the pumpkin there in the middle, just to add as a highlight. So now that this is dry, I'm going to take a clear brush and kind of pull some of the pigment around that so that it's still lighter, but not quite as stark. And you don't have to do that, but get a little bit back into my paper. You can always pull back some of your paint with a paper towel as long as you don't get into the rest of your design if you're not wanting to do that. And we'll go around these here. And then you can always add a little bit of shadow. If your light's coming from this direction, let's see, it almost looks like it's coming from this direction, so it's a little different than my example. Very faint amount of paint there. You can see very, 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 very watered down. But move some of that around a bit. You don't have to add the shadows. It may make you nervous the first time you're starting to paint, so you might leave those off, but it does add a nice look. You're welcome to put a table or a background on this, but I'm just going to leave it as is.